What's good, y'all? Marcus Frazier from Teachable Tuesdays here to motivate you, encourage you, and inspire you to be a better you. Thank you for joining me today, or should I say joining us for the Long Car Ride Chronicles, episode 21. And I got my lovely lady here with me. Everybody say hey.
Hi.
All right, so my lovely lady, her name is Kate. She currently lives in Maryland, more specifically Parkton. And today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, the dynamics of location changes. Now, something very interesting about Kate and I is, so I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, which is where Kate lived at one point in time before she moved to Parkton, which is still technically Baltimore. It's Baltimore County, kind of the outskirts of PA, if you will. And she is from Sanford, which is the outskirts of Orlando. You can get to Sanford from the east side of Orlando in about 25 minutes with tolls, about 40 minutes without tolls. So still really relatively close, if you will, right? So today we're going to do a little bit of talking about our dynamics of moving, why moving is a good thing, and just some of our experiences, especially because it seems like we kind of like swap places, if you will.
We did.
So, Kate, we're going to start with you. If you could tell them, what's the reason why you moved from Sanford to Maryland?
Well, I moved from Sanford to Maryland because I got a job. So, and I actually moved in the wintertime a few years ago. So I know what y'all are thinking. That's a brutal time to move up north.
Yeah, Brick City. Oh, watch something, please say.
So, yeah, I've lived here for 3 years, and I really appreciate the seasons, which is something that you don't experience in Florida.
You definitely don't. It's hot, less hot, and more hot. That is Florida. I'm not a Floridian, but I've lived in Orlando for 8 years. I've been associated with Florida for, almost 16 years now. So at this point, I know a little something. And speaking of knowing a little something, Bae, tell me, what are some of the differences, besides seasons, that you notice between Maryland and Florida?
The differences in seasons?
No, besides seasons. We know seasons is obviously definitely a big one. But like other differences that you've noted.
Well, the crime rate in Baltimore is a lot higher than it is in Orlando, which is a big negative. Like, when I go to the city here, I get in and get out with a purpose, and it's really not a lot that I go to the city. But then in Orlando, when I go home to visit, I'm like, wow, you can go to Orlando easily and feel safe. Don't get me wrong, there's crime points in Orlando, absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's overall much safer than Baltimore. I would say another difference is, well, so something I really like about the Northeast and that I appreciate is that it's so easy. There's so many surrounding areas. There's Virginia, there's Pennsylvania, there's DC, there's Jersey. So it's so easy to, take a trip somewhere, to any kind of area. Whereas Florida's so big, and there's so many places in Florida, but
yeah.
My point is, living here, you can be in another state in like 2 to 3 hours exploring another state.
Absolutely.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and I think for geographical purposes, if you're trying to, check it off your bucket list, just check out a couple different new states. Very true. I mean, in some other states, you got New Jersey, which is about 2.5 hours away, 3 hours, give or take. You have New York, which can be another 3.5 hours to 5 hours, depending on what part of New York you go to, and so on and so forth. It also depends on which part of Maryland you're at too. Like the part that Kate lives at, which is Parkton, is literally not even 5 minutes away from Pennsylvania line, if that.
I mean, I wouldn't even say 5 minutes.
Yeah, you drive on one side, you're in Pennsylvania pretty much.
Yep.
And then if you drive, maybe about an hour south, you're in DC, Virginia area. So I will say that's pretty dope about a lot of northeastern states, especially in Maryland. I would say one of the most notable differences that I've noticed between Maryland and Florida, besides the seasons, is really, I would say, the fashion. I think fashion is heavily affected. Also because of lack of seasons in Florida, or actual seasons, if you will. I notice it with my kids, they dress a bit differently. A lot of times up north, during the wintertime, you'll see people dressing like with ski masks and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure you've seen that, especially around the city. That's not really a thing in Florida as much. And I think also, talking about public transportation. Public transportation is a lot better up here than it is down there in Florida. For what it's worth, I know we talk about Baltimore, and Baltimore has a bad rep about a lot of different things, but the one thing that I love about Baltimore is the public transportation. It's easily accessible. Then you have the MARC train that runs downtown. I'm not saying the MARC train, I'm sorry. The light rail that runs from downtown all the way to, not Owings Mills. Maybe it is Owings Mills. I'm trying to remember. Any of my Baltimoreans, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember. I'm drawing a blank. But anyways, transportation in Orlando, or in Florida in general, for the most part, kind of sucks. Public transportation. In Orlando, it's okay for what it's worth. But I think one of the reasons why public transportation is not as great is because Florida, for the most part, is more of a still developing state compared to Maryland. Maryland's been around longer. So because of that, also they've needed access to transportation. A big part of that ties into the infrastructure, ties into the weather, and so on and so forth. So that plays a big part as well. Now, Kate, we talked about a little bit about pros and cons about living in Florida, living in Maryland, and so on and so forth. What are some of your favorite things to do in Maryland?
Some of my favorite things to do are go to Orioles games.
Shout out to Orioles.
Yeah, I went to a Ravens game pretty recently.
Ravens Nation.
I like to go on walks and hikes, and it's really nice, especially where I live, in certain times of the year, like fall, like you see all the fall leaves and they're very pretty. Other things, bowling. We went bowling last night. There's snowballs, which they're not that different than snow cones. So I mean, but snowballs is a Maryland thing.
Yeah.
And I disagree. I think ours are better.
Oh no, cap! Stop the cap!
Stop it.
Stop the cap.
Traveling to some of the underlying or outlying areas. I have family in Pennsylvania. I will agree that there's also beaches like Ocean City, Bethany Beach.
Oh, that's one that's not talked about a lot.
But, one of the things I do miss about Florida is being so close to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to be like an hour away from the beach as opposed to 3 hours and having to go for the weekend. And then Florida, it's a little, because of the weather, tends to be warmer, nicer. It's easier to be outside more.
Yeah.
But, don't get me wrong. In the winter, like now, I do kind of appreciate kind of slowing down in a sense and not being like out everywhere. I think it kind of forces us to just, take some quiet time.
Right, take a break.
And the snow is pretty to look at. It snowed a little bit yesterday.
Yes, actually, by the recording of this video, it would have been last week. But yes, snow's beautiful. And you know, y'all supposed to get a really bad snowstorm coming up in 2 days, which I'm jealous because she might be off work.
Hey, well, that's one of the benefits of living up here. So try to tell my boyfriend that, but you know, he has a mind of his own.
Shade. So for those who live down south, especially if you watch this video, you live in Florida. So public schools, they have snow days up here, which is the equivalent of hurricane days that we have in Florida. Basically meaning if it's a really bad snowstorm, Maryland and place up north slick get hurricane days too, kind of. So they just say inclement weather days. That's what they're gonna call it. We more so call it hurricane days, but it's really called inclement weather days all around. But anyways, if they're out of school, they have a certain amount of days that they can use, and then once those days are used up, they add it to the end of the school year. Obviously, this does not affect seniors because they get out when they get out, but it affects everybody else, and teachers, of course, because you got to make up that lost time of instruction. One of the things that I will say about Maryland, specifically Baltimore, but Maryland in general, Maryland's beaches are definitely not as great as Florida's beaches, as Kate mentioned. It's a beach in Baltimore that's trash. I'm not ranking on Baltimore, please. For those that are watching, I love Baltimore. Baltimore has my heart. It is, you know, that's always my charm city. Bodymore, as we call it. That's not a positive connotation, just let you guys know that. But you know, as far as the beaches are concerned, I mean, Ocean City's nice, but that's really about it. Bethany Beach, it's okay. But like, you know, when you go to Florida, you have Cocoa Beach, you have Daytona Beach, you have Miami Beach, New Smyrna, Ponce Inlet. You have you know, beaches near Tampa, St. Augustine, Bradenton. Well, Bradenton's the same Tampa area. It's just so much. Oh my gosh, Key West. Why can't I think of the name?
There's also Siesta Key.
Yep.
Which I've been to with my family, and it's a really nice place to go to. It's a nice vacation spot. I also like to add that up here we have a lot of, especially Marylanders, they'll say like there's really nothing to do in Maryland.
Which is cap.
And that's not true. I think it's more about finding things to do, like being involved in the Facebook groups, to find those events happening in Maryland. There's a cute little town in Pennsylvania called Havre de Grace, and they have all kinds of festivals, art shows. DC has like the cherry blossoms. So I mean, there's different things to do and see, and like cherry blossoms. I mean, that's something you can't do down south. So
yeah. Well, to add to that, because you're naming DMV and PA events, which I see why. Because
use the right 2 lanes to take the I-695 West, I-83 West exit toward Baltimore.
Because it's closer, but I'm going to add to that as well. So Baltimore specifically has a lot of really, really dope festivals. You have AFRAM, which they switched the months up. It used to be always in August or / September, but they've switched the months up so much. You have Artscape. I don't know if Artscape is still a thing, but I know at one point in time it was, and it would be every summer. My group, the Innovators, we've performed there before. So, what else? You have, obviously, you know, your local concerts, different types of concerts. Baltimore is heavy on the poetry scene, so if you like poetry, there's a lot of open mics that you can go to, a lot of local artists trying to, you know, get their runs up and stuff like that. We have a lot of great local artists as well. Not too many of our artists, at least from me growing up here, maybe times have changed now, really cracked into the music industry. I mean, you had a few that kind of popped their head up a little bit, but it was like, there for a second and no. Also, music. Let's talk about the music, right? Now, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this, because y'all know music is my love, right? So, music. Baltimore has something.
Use the right 2 lanes to take the I-695 West, I-83 West exit toward Baltimore.
Baltimore has something that's called Baltimore club music. If you don't know what Baltimore club music is, the best way to break it down is it's like kind of like house music in a sense. It was definitely inspired by house music. Y'all know house music came from Chicago, but it's own little twist.
I-695 West exit, then merge onto I-695 West.
If you think about it, right? And it has a distinctive sound. Oftentimes it uses a lot of samples. The samples can come from TV shows, it can come from movies, it can come from video games. I mean, especially like old school Baltimore club music. I swear, we made Baltimore club mixes out of Blue's Clues.
Oh, really?
Yes. See, I gotta put Kate on. I'm being a bad boyfriend. She lives in Maryland and she don't know nothing about that. I gotta put her on game. But I mean, you know, and compare that to the music in Florida. Since
For 17 miles.
since we're kind of on the hip hop side of things, right? Or musical side of things, if you will. Florida has different types of music as far as the hip hop scene is concerned, and it's just a different style.